and welcome to Amy Hart's Mums Club. In this podcast, each week I'll be sharing the highs and lows of being a mum and also inviting amazing guests to come and share their journeys of parenthood with us as well. And that's not all. This podcast is for you. Each week, me and my gaggle of fabulous guests will be sharing our tips, tricks and advice to help you on your way to parenthood too. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today, you will probably know from Made in Chelsea. She's also a mum to lovely Otillee. Please welcome Tabitha Willett. And this is your first ever podcast.
First ever podcast.
So today is all exclusives, all podcasts.
Basically, yeah.
Because we've never had one before. But thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I want to go back, first of all, about how your childhood experiences have shaped your parenting. Obviously, we know that you're in sort of a co-parenting relationship now.
Yeah.
And how your childhood sort of shaped that. So what was your childhood like?
So my childhood, first of all, being a single mother, I think it's important to say I was also raised by a single mother.
Mm.
So it never sort of was seemed as a bit of a shame, which I think a lot of people think being a single parent is just quite a sort of scary, like almost like a failure thing. Whereas for me, I had a good relationship with my father, I had a good relationship with my mother, and that did help. So my parents separated when I was very young. I think I was like 3 or 4, and it wasn't good. They never got along. And in fact, I didn't even see them in the same room together ever until like 20 years later. It was the day that I was giving birth to Otillee when I first saw them in a room together, like for the first time as an adult, which was wild. Like I had enough on my plate. Thank you very much. I didn't need to suddenly deal with all this childhood trauma.
Yourselves, please. Lots to catch up on.
Well, I'm huffing and puffing on gas and air. But yeah, so that was my upbringing. And I did also go to boarding school very young. So the way that it worked with custody, I was in the middle of 2 girls and we were all very close in age, middle of 3 girls even. So I was the middle child and we all went to boarding school and then did every other weekend, one with my mum, one with my dad. So we were primarily brought up by a single mother, like during the holidays and things like that. But we kind of did do every other weekend with each parent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can we talk about boarding school really quickly?
Yeah.
It wasn't on my list to talk about, but I keep seeing TikToks of people being like, if you went to boarding school, what was your experience at boarding school like? And would you send Otillee?
So I loved it. I was really naughty. I got expelled from a lot of schools. But I think that I loved it despite of that. And I think I just had so much fun. It's basically like a big sleepover with your friends all the time. It's funny because I have said up until now that I would never send Otillee to boarding school just purely because I'd miss her too much. So purely selfish reasons. Mm-hmm. She is the world's most independent girl and she literally couldn't give about me. She just wants to be around her mates all the time. So now I'm sort of thinking like if she wanted to go, I wouldn't say no. But she's only 5, nearly 6. I mean, I was 7 when I went, but that's too young, I think.
Yeah. That's a lot of people were saying like, I went at 7, I wouldn't send my kids, they were 12 or like 11 going into seniors.
Yeah, it's funny. Also, her dad and I have split custody. We do 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off, which is like a wildly long amount of time for a woman to spend away from their child every other week. Like I only get to see her every other week. But I think what it has done is it's made me be like, if she wanted to go, then I'd kind of be okay with it. Her dad takes her on holiday for 2 weeks sometimes during the summer and school holidays. And it's heartbreaking. But I think I kind of got used to it now and I know what's best for her and things like that.
I follow a lady on Instagram who has 50-50 week on, week off, but she has quintuplets. So for her, it's like a week on of madness and then a week of like doing the laundry and
that's
sleeping.
The thing, it really does. Sometimes I feel like I might have a bit like split personality or like live 2 very different lifestyles, but some weeks I am living like my best 33-year-old life, going to the pub and seeing all my friends and coming and recording podcasts and filming Made in Chelsea and things like that, and the next week I'm literally throwing on leggings and doing the school run and things like that. So it's very split and I will never get a babysitter on my week with Otillee because I only get to put her to bed, 14 nights a month, like half the year effectively, and I'm not gonna miss out on that.
But I think that's so good. I've said this so many times before. I feel like being able to split that, like having work days and having mum days. And I know that it's not doable for everyone, but I always say my previous background was being cabin crew, and cabin crew mums are work days or mum days, because when you're away, obviously you're working, and then you come home and on your days off you're a mum. And I think it's so good because it's that like enrichment, it's that full time, and it's that like not, your brain isn't split between I've got to do this and I've got to do this and I've got to do
You
this.
really can focus on the one thing that you're doing instead of being like, oh, I've got to get on the school run, or everything like that.
Yeah, so I have my set days with Stanley where I'm like, I am a mum today.
Yeah.
I don't do any work. I'm a mum today.
Which is really nice because you can solely focus on them without any distractions, worrying about replying to emails and picking up the phone, doing admin and stuff like that.
Let's talk about Made in Chelsea. How was that for you? What made you decide to do it? And do you see it as a job, or is it just like your life being filmed?
I see it as maybe a bit of both. I mean, what's quite funny is I am a single mother and I don't receive any income from Otillee's father, from my parents, from anywhere. So it is my job. And if I didn't need the money, I probably wouldn't do it. But as it so happens, it's fun and it is my life. And I hang out with all those people anyway. And we talk about all the things that we talk about on the show anyway. So it's just like, I'm just doing what I normally would be doing, just with a few extra cameras and producers. And I kind of forget anyone's ever going to watch it. I sort of go to work and collect my day rate and go home.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I've just been hanging out with my mates.
Exactly.
But the crew as well, and mates as well. It's just a really nice environment, basically. I love it.
Just remind me, how did you come into it? Sort of how were you brought on? Because everyone's brought on in the big Made in Chelsea waved web of like family tree.
So I was friends with all like the original lot when it all started, like the Millies and Hugos and everyone. And we'd go out all the time. So I was always on the phone to Monkey Kingdom, the company that do Made in Chelsea. And I'd always had a boyfriend. I had this childhood sweetheart that I was with from school. And I sort of like, it doesn't really make sense to come on it as somebody who's in a relationship with somebody that's not on the show. And I don't think I've ever spoken about this actually in public before. And basically, I was working at the time for a private members club, and I started having a thing with my boss, who was Otillee's father. And he basically said, quit your job and move in with me. And I broke up with my childhood sweetheart, obviously, because I was so enamored by my like boss and this big power figure in my life. Left my job, moved in with him. And about a week later, he went, she's changed my mind. And I literally was heartbroken, jobless, homeless, and was like, and then Monkey Kingdom gave me a call, literally like by serendipitously, called me that afternoon and were like, do you want to come away on an away series? Like, what's your situation now? I don't know if someone tipped them off or something. Do you want to come away for 3 months? Because we're doing the away series in Croatia. And I just went, yeah, and I put my hands up. And I think I filmed my first episode 2 days later. And from that moment, I was in with Sam Thompson and George Toffolo, because they kind of wanted to integrate me before we went away. And then we did the series break where I started having a thing with Miles. Just it all gets quite incestuous when you're sort of in that.
Everybody move one place to the left.
Yeah, literally. And then we all went away, and that was about it. Yeah, and so from that moment on, I was in it full time. But then actually what happened was when we got back from Croatia, about 2 weeks later, I bumped into the guy, Otillee's father, the guy that had broken up with me. And he said, biggest mistake of my life, moved back in. And I think like a month later, I was pregnant. Yeah.
Amazing. That takes us on to... Thank you for that, for leading us in. So then you found out you were pregnant.
Yeah.
What was that like? Obviously, after a month of being back together.
I mean,
did you see it as like, oh, this is the perfect fairy tale, it's all meant to be? Or were you like, oh dear?
No, because I am nothing if not romantic. I literally was like, this is meant to be, like prince and princess and fairy tale. And, I went away and I did my Made in Chelsea, and I've got a great tan and everything. And now I'm back, and my nice and shining armour has once again asked me to move back in, and let's live happily ever after. And obviously, I romanticize everything in life. Obviously, it turned out not quite to be the case. I actually had a really terrible pregnancy, and the relationship wasn't a healthy one. So it wasn't quite the happy ending. I'm still waiting for my happy ending.
It will come. It will come. It comes to us all. I was like chronically single, and I got it. So if I can keep a boyfriend / husband for 4 years, anyone can.
Okay.
Anyone can. So you had Otillee, and then the world went into lockdown. How was that, being a new parent in a relationship that potentially wasn't in a great place, and then having to be like, sorry, you can't see anyone else apart from your newborn baby and your partner?
I tell you what, I think for a lot of people, COVID was not obviously not a good thing whatsoever. I did see that there were actually quite a lot of blessings from my side, because what it did mean is that it sort of forced me to make a decision quite snappy, knowing that this bubble wouldn't be the healthiest place, not for me, because I think as a parent you always just think about the child, but yeah, for me, for him, and for the baby. So I very quickly, we were doing a bit of therapy, and I think we all just came to a big mutual decision that this was just not going to work. Cancelled the wedding, blamed it on COVID, and I moved out. And
Where did you go to? Had you planned it and like sort of got somewhere, or were you like, I need to go now, I'm going to go to my mum's?
I thought that wasn't really an option, because I just think, yeah, I didn't want to go back home, if you know what I mean. And I've always been a very strong, independent woman since I was 18, and I just didn't. That was never going to be an option. I think that as a mother, you are less emotional about other stuff around you because you're much more pragmatic. So I had already mentally checked out. I didn't have the luxury of staying in bed heartbroken for 2 weeks because I had to get up and breastfeed and take my child to the park. And I saved up. I called, because I'd done Chelsea, I was doing a lot of influence work. I called every contact that I had, all the PRs, all the girls that I had met at lunches, all the girls also in the same industry, and just sort of went, help. If you've got any campaigns going live, I'm in a sticky situation. And it was a really vulnerable thing to do and to ask and to sort of say, can I have your help, please? And this is the reason. And I cannot tell you the amount of girls that actually stood up and went, absolutely, and sort of went out of their way to help. So what I did is I sort of managed to squirrel away enough money to put a deposit down on a flat down the road. So also in Parsons Green, just near where her dad lived. And it meant that we could all stay in the same bubble, see her every day, but not be under the same roof.
Yes.
So have our sort of privacy and respect each other's privacy, not get on each other's toes, kind of thing.
How was it having a baby in COVID?
COVID with a baby, otherwise, it did just allow me just to focus solely on her.
Now we just talked about this before, but I think it's really, really important. You were saying about how you feel like single parenthood is a stigma, and it's very like, oh, you said that when you talk about it, everyone's like, poor you,
Yeah.
but you don't feel like that, do you?
I really don't. So yeah, like we were just talking about before, basically the times that I have spoken on Instagram and online about being a single parent, lots of people are very sort of like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And yeah, no. And it shouldn't be like that. I think it's such a superpower, and I've really worked hard to maintain a very good co-parenting relationship. And I really think that there are people that are a lot worse off than I am, aka somebody that's in an unhappy, toxic relationship and hasn't had the balls to sort of walk away. And what I love is that I do have the perfect balance of parenting and also having my own identity as well, being able to date, being able to do what I enjoy doing, and also love parenting at the same time. I don't resent my parenting days. I also don't struggle with my days alone. I feel really, really lucky. And there is a huge thing. Obviously, it's not easy, but life isn't easy. Everyone's got their things to moan and complain about. And the last thing I want is for people to look at me as sort of like a woe is me, poor me, poor me, poor me kind of situation, because might not be what I expected, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It is. It's just life.
My friend always says, if plan A doesn't work, there's 25 other letters in the alphabet.
Oh my God, I love that. Literally, I'm probably on my plan P by now.
But if someone is listening or watching and they're in a toxic relationship, but they're like, oh God, I can't be a single parent. I don't want to do that to my kids. What would you say to them?
Every day I get asked this question. Every day I get asked sort of like, how did you walk away? How did you have the courage for it? I'm in X, Y, and Z situation, and I think I need to walk away, but I don't know how, and things like that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I do not know. All I know is my experience. And I often say that, and I feel like I need to caveat any response with, please don't take my advice as gospel. I just think you've got to be, I want to say be selfish, but you can't be when you're a parent. I would say put the children first. I also
I think is it like reframing? Because a lot of my friends who have been in this situation have said, you know, all you think is my kids need their mum and dad together, but actually two
Don't.
happy parents.
Two happy parents is way better. Two happy separated parents is way better. And Otillee's dad and I, we go for coffees together. We go for walks together. She loves it when we're both together. But if we were both in the same house screaming at each other, it would be horrible for her. It would be really, really horrible. I think my advice is, obviously put the work in, try and make it work first, do the therapy and things like that. But I also think if there's a problem there, I think the sooner you walk away, the better.
Yeah.
Just because I think if I had stayed on until Otillee was sort of 3 or 4, it would have uprooted her life a lot more and changed her
Trajectory.
yeah, it would have changed her familiarity, what she was familiar with a lot more than
Doing it early because she
doing it
doesn't
early.
remember.
She can't remember.
No.
So I always kind of say that, like, if it's really bad,
Mm.
you know, put your emotions in place, be clever about it, put the children first, and you know, it doesn't mean your life is going to end.
No.
You know, your life is just beginning.
So I'm really interested with co-parenting. Are there like set rules? Like you say that you respect each other and you have sort of like, you know, you respect each other's views. Do you have sort of uniform guidelines across like both of you, or is it like it's your week? There's one set of rules at one house and there's one set of rules at the other house?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, we have different styles of parenting. In terms of like her bedtime, yeah, she goes to bed at 7:30 every night. We do it very differently. At his house, she sleeps in his bed and watches TV. At my house, she sleeps in her bed and I read her a book. Things like that. At his house, he's mega big on nutrition, so he will sort of give her like raw duck egg yolks and things like that, which she'll eat like happily. At my house, I'll be chicken nuggets and chips, because I'm like a happy full tummy's a happy tummy.
Mm-hmm.
She's a growing child, you know, as long as she gets food in her,
Yeah.
I've done my job. So there are things like that. At the beginning, there was a lot of stuff that I had to do where I kind of had to hold my hands up. He's a man, and I do find it incredibly endearing. He can't do her hair, and he sort of would put her in tights instead of leggings and things like that. But like, he does his best.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are opposing views, and there are things that we disagree on and things that we do very differently, and it normally takes her a couple of days to get into the routine at the other person's house.
Yeah.
There's an element of, you've got to just put your hands up and be like, she's happy and she's healthy. It doesn't really matter if she's watching TV or eating chicken nuggets or eating a full rounded diet and, you know, reading her books and things like that. You kind of, it's a very level.
It's interesting you say about like the sort of having to adjust when you come back. I was going to say, like, a lot of people probably say, like, oh God, week on, week off, it's too long, I couldn't see my kids. But if it takes a couple of days to adjust, if you're doing 2 days on, 2 days off, then that is a lot of just not adjusting.
That's the sole reason why we do week on, week off, because originally we did 3 days, 4 days, 4 days, 3 days, which first of all breaks up the week a lot. And it meant that like one person had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so could never go out and date and things like that, and the other person had the beginning of the week, so would find it really difficult to go to work and make a living and things like that. But on top of that, she does take a few days to settle in to like the different routines and things. So yeah, I think it's the healthiest thing for her. It's heartbreaking for us. Also, she doesn't really have a huge concept of time. She really doesn't know if it's been 3 days or 7 days.
Yeah.
And I talk to her every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you said you're waiting for your happy ever after. A lot of people that I've spoken to about co-parenting says co-parenting is lovely until new people come in. How do you manage that? How do you balance that with meeting new people when you're in a co-parenting situation?
Yeah.
Is it situation?
Oh God, I've been in like, because I've been single. I've been separated from Otillee's dad for over 5 years now, so a long time. And I've had like a series of different like viewpoints on it. So I got into one relationship quite quickly, turned out to be the worst thing of all. Thought I was doing the right thing and bringing another father figure, bringing another male into the house. And I also think that I was quite vulnerable and left that. It actually ended up being the most toxic and abusive relationship ever. It was just horrible. And I can't believe I ever put my daughter in any kind of situation like that. And had the courage to end that. Ending that was a lot harder than ending my relationship with Otillee's dad, I think, because I was just so mortified that I'd got it wrong again. And I was sort of like, how am I not seeing these red flags? then I went through a phase of like, I've never done the apps because I don't like it. I find it just a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a social people person, so I'd much rather just go out and meet people organically.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went through a phase of sort of like going and snogging boys outside pubs for a while, being like, YOLO, if I don't do it now, I never will. Which again was great. I think when I was in my 20s, there was this huge stigma about being deemed like slutty.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I was literally like, well, now's my time.
Yeah.
While I'm still relatively fit, like I may as well. And now I'm fully ready to settle down again. I think I've done that and I got it like out the way. And I'm dating someone new now who is wonderful. He's father himself, and it's all going really well. But I am so apprehensive and so scared that it might not be the right thing again. And I'm like, God, can I really go through this again? Can I really go through this again? But then everyone that I've been speaking to, him included, has been like, you know, who are you to say no when love comes knocking? You kind of got to jump into with 2 feet and just go for it. Otherwise, and I am just the biggest romantic. It's what life's all about.
Exactly.
There's butterflies.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Would you like more children?
Desperate for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love it. I think I'm 33 now, so I wouldn't say I'm desperate for them. I'm quite happy doing it whenever. What I do have in the back of my head is that I'm 33 and, you know, if I'm dating this guy now and then, you know, how long until engaged, and then how long
Rachel
engaged
from
until
Friends.
wedding, and yeah, exactly, and then how long wedding until babies, and then how long, and it does make me panic. I'm not going to lie, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should freeze my eggs this year, and that way I do that, and then I've got friends that did the egg freezing thing.
I've done it.
How do you find it?
I mean, I thought I coped with it a lot better than what other people say I did. Because when I said I was going to do it again, and I was like, really? Why would you do that to yourself again? I thought it was fine. But I did it I was single and I didn't think I was going to meet anyone. So I did it for like peace of mind, and then met my husband and fell pregnant by accident. So that was what a waste of money. But yeah.
At least you got them. You never know.
I've got them, so that'll be.
I think my main thing is I don't want to.
7.
Yeah, I don't want to up a relationship that is potentially the one by being like, let's do this really quickly.
I did 2 rounds of egg freezing, so 1 abandoned, 1 successful. Then I went to start another one and I couldn't start it. And then I did the next one after I'd met him. Yeah. And he, bless me, did some research. And he was like, you know, embryos are better than eggs. And would you like to freeze embryos together? And I was like, hun, this is my insurance policy. If we break up, no. And he was like, well, you could still use them. I was like, you say that now. I was like, but if we broke up, you probably wouldn't want me to. Literally. So let's not do that.
That's very mature of you.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But he loves the research. He loves when I've had biopsies after dodgy smear tests and stuff. He comes and he watches it on the big screen and he does the research. And I've looked and apparently
you found a really good one.
He's a good guy. But they're out there. See, they're out there. I didn't think I would, and they're out there.
Yeah.
But on the apps.
On the apps?
On the apps.
I don't know. And well, if this one goes, I might.
One night in London, I downloaded the app and looked, and so then I came up on the app after I'd closed it down, obviously hung over the next morning, not opened it again.
Yeah.
And then I came up on his, and he was like, I really recognise her. I'm not sure where from. And it said I was an air hostess. So he swiped, and then I didn't swipe back. So then he searched Amy in Instagram and scrolled through them all, found me and was like, oh, that's how I recognise her.
Yeah.
And then he thought I'd just send her a message.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's so romantic.
And then and then I looked in his profile and it's private, and I was like, who has a private profile? That's so weird.
Also I think that's quite hot.
Yeah. And then so I looked him up on Google, and he used to be like an Abercrombie door greeter.
That's so hot.
With Ashley and Tommy, Ashley James and Tommy, who she's with. They used to all work there together and stuff. And Lydia Millen as well. Everyone I meet is like, I used to work at Abercrombie with Sam. Yes. So I saw the pictures of him in his boxes, and I was like, yeah, all right. I'll give you a message back.
You'll do.
Yeah.
Saying that I didn't.
Man ever.
Yeah. Saying that I didn't do the apps though. The guy that I'm seeing now is I slid into his DMs.
Oh.
I know.
Where did you see him?
We have mutual friends, and I just thought, yes.
Exactly.
And I think if you don't ask, you don't get. So just go for it.
Yeah. Well, I want to finish the episode soon because I want to find out who he is. So, but I'm not going to make you do that on camera, which is perfect. So just before we finish, you are back on Made in Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever bring Otillee on? Obviously, on Towie, they've all bought, Amy Charles has brought Polly on, and Chloe always had Maddie on. Would you ever bring Otillee on to Made in Chelsea?
So she was on it when she was a baby. I think now she's recognisable. Her dad and I have both sort of said, let's not
Yeah.
do it.
Do you share her on your socials?
I do, yeah. And I do have sometimes when I'm walking around, people sort of saying, hello, Otillee, and things like that. And she's like,
Hi.
hi. But I think TV is just slightly different.
Yeah.
I personally would, because I share on my socials and I do it like that. I think it's one of the things that again, being a co-parent, there are things that you agree on, things you don't agree on, but you kind of need to respect each other's viewpoints and things like that. And he's currently at the moment said no. I think he's also got the stigma, as in like, don't monetize your child, which I would never do.
No.
But also she is part of my life and I share my life organically. So for me, it's not about monetizing your child, but I do understand his standpoint on he doesn't want anything to look like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so lovely to talk to you. I'm so privileged that we were your first ever podcast. I love that.
Well, thank you for having me.
Right. That's it for Amy Hart's Mums Club this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to Tabitha for being such a fabulous guest. Don't forget to check us out on socials at Amy Hart's Mums Club for the podcast everywhere. And for me, it's at Amy Hart XO on Instagram and at Amy Hart on TikTok. And I will see you next week with another fabulous guest. Mwah!